Good afternoon. Thank you for introduce. So my name is Tomasz Bojanowski, and I'm a Ph.D. student at the Doctoral School of the Kardinal Stefan Wyszyński University in Warsaw, at the Faculty of Law and Administration, in the Department of the Criminal Procedure, and I'm preparing a Ph.D. Thesis in the field of preparatory proceedings, and my task, my dream is to prepare a new model of the preparatory proceedings in Poland. It will be hard, but I will try. And I also work in the office of the Ombudsman for the Children. And first, I would like to express my gratitude for the opportunity to be here, especially to Lea. Thank you. So last year we discussed about the recidivism in the general perspective, and this year the perspective is about the prevention. And I will focus not mainly on the rehabilitation, but more than about the alternative punishment, alternative sanctions. But I start with the rehabilitation. I would like to begin my consideration with the definition of the rehabilitation. So it can be seen as a set of actions derived from the fields of the, for example, law, psychology, pedagogy, selected branches of the medicine, including psychiatry. Furthermore, these actions are guided by the desire to rescue, rehabilitate, and reintegrate individuals who have come into the conflict with the law for the benefit of the society as a whole. And this also involves preventive measures, taking action towards individuals who are potentially at risk being influenced by socially deviant and criminogenic environments. In a broader social context, it's said that the subject of these efforts are also individuals who are resistant to the adapting their attitudes and behaviors and expansion of the surroundings to describing the system of the criminal policy. As Gustav Radbruch put it, describing the system of the recidivism means describing the system of the criminal policy. One of the conditions of the success is the combating the recidivism is rational legislation of the provide a special regulation in this area, and to effectively address the repeat offenders to a multi-layered system of the measures is required to not only a penal but also administrative and the social aspects. So in light of the research on the impact of the imprisonment on the preventing recidivism, the view is confirmed that the more severity of the criminal sanctions cannot positively affect on the offender. So over the past years, criminal law provisions concerning the fight against the recidivism and the principles of the punishing repeat offenders have evolved. The effectively addressed recidivism are this multi-layered system of measures. I think it's a good way to connect the rehabilitation and retributivism, because it's also an issue in this field. But now I talk a little about the philosophy of the punishment, because it's very important, and I think, like Lea, we talk about the penal populism, and about the philosophy of the punishment. And it's important to note that the severity of a punishment does not always align with the rehabilitative qualities. Of course, this idea should not be extended to the absurd degree, as there are cases where the punishment lose their intended rehabilitative character. For example, a life sentence without the parole has no rehabilitative value, but serves a purely preventive and punitive purpose. So the application of the social rehabilitation principles in the practice may suggest a belief that individual who violates a norm should be not permanently excluded from the community. And how to connect retributivism and resocialization or the rehabilitation? In my opinion, we can do it, because the rehabilitation programs can express respect for the humanity, moral agency, which is a central concern for the proponents of the retributive punishment and the traditional view of the justice. Rehabilitation, when integrated with the principle of the just punishment, rather than being contradictory to it, can be seen as an expression of the prudent love for the humanity, and this approach can provide a genuine assistance to the society, crime victim and the offender themselves, and the theory that reconcile the retributivism and the rehabilitation should not be viewed merely as another form of the so-called golden mean. Since it may be seen as a compromise, it appears easier to accept that the reason alone. And now you see on the slide the Article 67 of the Polish Penal Executive Code, and the very important is the purpose of the punishment enforcement. And you see that is the purpose of the enforcing in a prison sentence is defined in this article, and it's important to emphasize that the primary goal of the punishment in Poland, in Polish law, is to instill in the convicted person a willingness to cooperate in the shaping socially desirable attitudes, in particular a sense of responsibility and the need to comply with the legal order, thus the preventing of the return to a criminal behavior. And then I'm going to examples of the rehabilitation program, and this is a part, small part about the rehabilitation in my presentation. And the slide presents the rehabilitation program implemented with one of Polish penitentiary institution. In different institutions could be different. And there's a five group of programs, and for example, programs for the counteracting aggression, violence, and pro-criminal attitudes. It's, for example, the name aggression replacement training. It focuses on the reducing the aggressive behavior and promoting pro-social skills. Second is program for the preventing addiction and substance abuse. For instance, respect your health, save someone's life, the name of the program, and it's addressed to the addiction prevention for the offenders who committed crimes under the influence of for the alcohol or the drugs. Includes the demonstration and the training on providing first aid. And third is program developing social and the cognitive skill. And in the Polish we say the culture stop, the name of the program. And it's focused the enhancing social and cultural awareness among the participants. And it's also the third group is vocational activation and employment promotion programs. For example, Ambitious Active Creative, this is the name of the program, promotes the vocational training and the skills development, encourage offenders to become more employable. Of course, there are other programs. For example, we have a program like one TV show in Poland. We say in the translation is "I Have a Talent," and this about promotes and encourage creative expression and skill development among the inmates. Of course, there are more programs. The institution also implements numerous targeted programs aimed at a specific group of the offenders, utilizing the variety multimedia techniques and often conducted with the participation of external individual institution. And on the slide now you see the Article 32 of the Polish Penal Code, and there are the penalties in the Polish law, and you see there are the fines, restriction of the liberty, imprisonment, and life imprisonment. And the fourth point is replete, and it means that I think a few years ago we delayed imprisonment for 25 years, because for now in Poland the sentence could be longer. I think about the 30 years or more, and that's why it looks like that. And you see that we have two alternative penalties in Polish penal code: is fine and restriction of the liberty. How many times left?
You have
Yeah, but
minutes.
okay.
Okay,
So
or more.
so I always have a problem with time. So traditionally there are two alternative penalties, as I said, is restriction of liberty and the fines. But however, not all crimes are subject of these alternative penalties. All felonies, so-called the serious offenses, are punishable exclusively by fixed-term imprisonment or a life imprisonment. And what about the fines? It should be noted that in Poland, fines are relatively rarely imposed, although in many European countries they are predominant form of the criminal sanction. In the Penal Code of 1997, the fines are provided in sanctions of about 300 offenses, but now I think it's much more because we change our penal code many times. And very important here, that is what Professor Jakubowska-Hara said, that the potential of the fines in Poland in their current form has not been fully utilized. So we need to change the law in this field, but maybe later about this. And the second alternative penalty sanction is the restriction of the liberty. It's similar to the community service found in the many countries. The primary form of restriction of liberty is obligation to work from 20 to 40 hours per month for period ranging from the 1 month to 12 months. And if convicted person is unable to perform the work, deduction can be made from the day wages instead. Yeah, I think it's the most important thing in this. And we also this is not alternative sanction, but similar. Could be these measures can be alternative to the imprisonment sentence. For example, is conditional suspension of the proceedings, although it is currently rarely used due to being displaced by the procedural institution of a voluntary submission to the punishment, is theoretically represent an excellent alternative to the imprisonment. But in practice, however, implementing these measures encounters numerous obstacles. The actual costs of applying this measure are disproportionately high compared to the benefits derived from this use. And then we have also this quasi-alternative to the imprisonment related to the execution of imprisonment is include the electronic monitoring, and this special law for that, but it undoubtedly serves an alternative to the short-term imprisonment, less than 1 year. In bigger sentences, there is no possibility to use it. And we have also penal all the criminal measures. There is also possibility of applying these measures independently to a broader extent than is currently practiced, so we need to change the law in this field. Under actually a penal code, independent imposition of such a measure is possible only when deviating from the imposition of the prison sentence. So there is a proposal to eliminate this division between the punishment and the penal measures of their social impact purpose and the function essentially by the same. There are also probation officer in the restoration system. This is very important role in this system, but I need to skip this slide, but because I don't have time. There are also many very important role of the NGO in our system, and we have almost 700 non-governmental organizations in this field. There are mainly organizations connected with the church, but not everyone. And it's very big work to this external rehabilitation. And going to the conclusion, how many time? 2 minutes?
We are
Yeah.
waiting for the conclusion.
Okay,
Very
2
important.
slides. So the conclusion. Imprisonment represents the primary punitive response of violation of the criminal law norms. However, there are numerous negative aspects associated with this application. We have 2 alternative penalties to imprisonment, fines and restriction of liberty. These alternatives are always listed alongside the imprisonment in the penal code. Regarding fines, it should be noted that the relatively rarely imposed in Poland, although they constitute the predominant form of criminal sanction in many European countries, not in Poland. The second alternative to imprisonment is the restriction of liberty, and the Polish form of the restriction of liberty is similar to the Italian sanction known as the controlled freedom, which replaces the short-term detention. Community service is also known in many countries and takes various forms. Another alternative imprisonment is conditional suspension of proceedings. Alternative to the imprisonment also include a certain modification related to the execution, such as the electronic monitoring, but we can add also weekend arrest, partial sentencing, and a conditional release. An alternative imprisonment could also be a broader application of penal measures as the standalone sanctions. However, this would require the legislative change to increase the effectiveness of this measure. And in Poland, certain measures of sanction found in another country, alternatives to imprisonment, are unknown. For example, the civic awareness courses is in France, for example, entry bans or deportation in the France, Italy, England, and Wales, and semi-liberty regime in Italy. And based on the recidivism research, it can be observed that the offender sentenced to the fine on imprisonment with the conditional suspension of the execution are less likely to reoffend compared to those sentenced to unconditional imprisonment. And it's recommended to need a reforming criminal legislation regarding the recidivist be considered from the perspective of the criminological and the penological knowledge. Any potential changes should aim to expand the possibilities for the positively influencing offenders rather than increasing punitive elements. And my last sentence, I would like to add that to emphasize the parimia, duralex sed lex, should remain in the force for sure. Preparators for the serious crimes should be punished severely, but in the other cases we should use the achievement of the various scientific fields to reconcile the retributive and this rehabilitative aspect of the punishment. So thank you.
Yeah.